Yeah, good to see you. Thank you again. Thank you for being back here. We won't take much of your time, but we really appreciate you coming back. So, everybody who doesn't know, this is Neri Flores. He is a skill bridger still. He's on his OJT opportunity right now, and we're bringing him back. It was OJT All Stars, but we recently changed it to the Seven Eagle Veteran Spotlight. We liked that just so when we post it on LinkedIn, other people understand what you guys are achieving as well. Nobody knows what OJT is. So we wanted to make it something a little bit more business friendly so everyone else also sees your guys' success. So I guess this will be our first Seven Eagle Veteran Spotlight. We have Neri here with us. He recently got hired onto R4 integration. So he's going to tell you guys today about how he got there and what he did to be successful.
Yeah, good morning. So again, my name is Neri Flores. I've just coming out of a 20-year career in the aviation career fields. I worked CV-22s before as a crew chief and avionics background. Um, so the way that R4 kind of fell into my lap, I had a buddy that I worked with for years, Mike Wilderman, hit me up, was like, "Hey man, heard you're retiring. Love to see your resume, and let me get you over to get it over to the guys over here at R4. I think it'd be a great position for you." And here at R4, like I've been OJT almost about 3 weeks now, and it has been fantastic. Very little, I guess, transition that I was kind of worried about, kind of getting away from the military, getting away from the fight. Like I'm still here. I'm still integrating with the aviation career fields, um, integrating a lot of different systems into the products that we output here at R4, and worked with Seven Eagle, learned a lot of great interview skills, how to actually write a resume. Last time I even looked um, at a resume at all. God, I was 18 years old, and it was really kind of like written on a piece of paper that says, "I fix engines, I fix motors." Um, and that's so it was a big scary thing coming out of the Air Force. 20 years I've been told what to do, what to wear, how to act. Very simple, very easy to do. So when I got into the skill bridge, I learned a lot of things. Like I said, the resume building was a huge one for me. Interview skills. I like to talk, so really just kind of cleaning up the things that I responded with and how I responded to certain questions, especially those that I weren't aware of the answer. I know during one of the interviews I've had, somebody asked what does laser stand for, and I was like, I know it's something something radiation. That's about it. But learning how to make those proper responses in things that you're not aware of or things that you don't know the answer to. Jordy and Matt and I mean everybody at Seven Eagle has been super helpful on teaching me on my end of how to really transition from the military as an entity into the civilian world. So, and I think I saw Jeff.
Yeah, it looks like
Uh,
he just popped off. He was having some audio issues, so I don't know if he's back in here yet. Whoa! Jeff, you're sounding a little bit robotic.
okay.
No, sir. It's I'm not sure what is causing that. It sounds
Actually, I believe Jeff is in his office. We'll take a little field trip and we'll just make it super simple.
perfect.
I was saying we can just make this super simple.
Oh, weird.
I would say
Hello.
this. So I'm going to turn off my volume here, then we don't get the reverb. That'll be perfect. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, there you go. If Jeff just turns off his all of his and then we keep it on Neri's, we should be good to go.
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure what was going on with I'll turn my video off and we can keep your audio on. We'll keep the audio going. There you go. Two birds, one stone.
Amazing. Seeing you guys together is better anyway. Thank you for joining us, Jeff. Could you introduce yourself as well?
Sure. Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Dahlgren. I'm a retired Army guy. Uh, Almost 7 years out now at this point. And work here with Neri at R4 Integration. We're at Fort Walton Beach. And what we do is primarily aviation prototyping, engineering for solutions that go on aircraft. And we do everything from fixed wing to rotary wing, lift support, supersonic, all that kind of stuff. And right now, the in vogue stuff is satellite communications that we're working with. So we're putting that capability on a lot of different assets, all the way from the B-1 bomber to B-52s to 864 Apaches, H-47 for Chinooks, UH-60 helicopters. And then we're also doing stuff in the commercial sector with the FAA, going after opportunities with carrier aircraft. It could be Delta, American, whoever. We're just trying to help out. But at the end of the day, our focus here at R4 is to support the warfighter. We may be retired, we may be turning a little gray in our beards, but ultimately, overall, we're still part of the game, and that's one of the things we really love about R4 here is still being part of that solution, because there was nothing more disappointing and more frustrating that when you're in uniform and you get a piece of equipment or a piece of kit and it was a piece of junk, it was outdated, it just didn't work for what you needed. We get past all that and we do it in a very quick flash bang. So, we understand that the warfighter needs it tomorrow, so we're going to build it tonight. So you got it.
Yeah, no, thank you for that intro, Jeff. I know we've all been in the situation where we were trying to use a piece of equipment and it was military grade, and that grade was pretty unfortunate. So we appreciate you guys still supporting the mission. Everybody in here is a transitioning veteran just like Neri on this call, so I would love to hear from your perspective. What really stands out to you in an interview? Like, what's important for these guys to be focusing on when they're going into these interviews and applying?
So from the interviewee perspective,
Hmm.
what I would say is, first and foremost, just be calm. When you come into an interview, remember everyone puts their pants on one leg at a time. Well, most people, I'm assuming, put their pants on one leg at a time, right? Um, and just be honest and straightforward. And do your homework before you go into an interview. Kind of understand the company that you're talking to. Try and find out the people that are in that company that you expect to potentially see in that interview. Like if you go to our website, you won't get a lot of who the organization consists of, but at least you'll be able to see the president, JP, and he's generally involved in a lot of those interviews, right? Or if you've got somebody that's kind of helped you get to that interview, maybe you have a handler or somebody at Seven Eagle Group like this. That's a great opportunity to try and find out your audience, so as in there. And then I'm looking for people to answer questions more than just yes, no. I'm looking for perspectives, and from this side of the table, um, and at least from our company, we're trying to find a good fit in terms of a personality, in terms of your who you are. Skill sets are very important, obviously, the technical expertise or things of that nature. But when it comes down to it, the culture that we have here, we're very dependent upon each other, and we support each other, and that's a big part of it. So as you go in and you do your interview, don't be afraid to ask questions as well and find out about that company culture. What's important to them. Um, you'll find that with large companies, unfortunately, you're probably going to be kind of a number, and that's just
Yeah.
yeah, that's very unfortunate. And there's some pros and cons to smalls and larges. But in small companies, you're probably going to find a culture or command climate, as you've heard it generally speaking in your military background, and kind of dig into that. Don't be afraid to ask about that a little bit. Not necessarily exactly what I'm going to be doing, because sometimes you may be asked to do 5 or 6 or 7 different things. Um, you can expect somebody from my end to be asking questions of, tell me a little bit about your background. How would that relate to this? What are you looking for? That's the way how we do it here. There's a lot of dialogue behind that. Um, but from your end, as the interviewee, um, don't be afraid to go in there with a bunch of questions that you have. Okay, hey, what am I going to be doing? What are my hours? What are my benefits? Those kind of things. Those are all typical that you're going to ask for, but Don't be afraid to kind of get into it a little bit and ask about like, hey, tell me about your background and how have you enjoyed being here? You know, what are the things that you like about your company? Don't be afraid to ask the interviewer a little bit about themselves because that shows me that you kind of care a little about where you're going to work because you get a choice, right?
Yeah.
You're hopefully going to get multiple offers from multiple folks and pick the one that fits you the best. Because like Neri and I were talking about this, what about a week and a half, two
Week and a
weeks
half,
ago.
yeah.
He's like, my family's seen a difference. They see me, I'm happy now, and I kind of like what I'm doing and where I'm going, because it's part of the family. And we discussed that here as well. Our priorities here are family, health, fulfillment, and then the work. Because if we get the first three right, then the work's kind of happen by itself. But when I look at family, you got to look at it in a couple of venues. We care about you and your family and give you the opportunities to take care of your family, okay, and the time to be able to do things. But additionally, you're going to be working with us, at least 40 hours a week, maybe sometimes a little bit more when we surge here and there. That means you're going to be around us a lot. That means if I'm spending more time with you than my family at home, then by virtue that becomes family here.
Yeah, which if you don't mind me, like this has been a great fit for me. Like I said, I've known one guy, God, about a decade now. So I was like, okay, yeah, I know a person, and I've been here 3 weeks, and guys know me by name, they know me by face. It's good mornings. It was a very smooth transition. Like, I really do. I feel at home. I do my work. It's really easy. I say easy work, but it's good fun. I enjoy the work. We can joke around. We can still have fun. I'm not just like you talked about earlier, in some of the bigger companies, I'm not just a number. I'm not just one of my figures. You're one of my basic guys. You're one of my intermediate guys. You're one of my whoever's. I'm Neri. I'm Flo. Most of the guys call me Flo out here, which is what I go by most of the time anyway. And it's, well, which do you want to go by? Well, I'll go by Flo if you don't mind. Yep. So every morning it's, hey, what's up, Flo? Good morning, Flo. Hey, this is what we've got. Hey, man, you knocked that out really great. Da da da. Like it's very easy to come in with a smile. And like Jeff said, like my wife has noticed, my kids have noticed. They're like, man, are you really liking this job? I was like, I really, really am. Like, this is a great fit. Me and Jeff talked about, there's some other companies that have reached out and given interest, but I told him, I was like, well, I'm not to the end point yet, but I'm pretty well sold on what direction I want to go. And, coming in every morning and going, man, I really am excited to be here makes the next 8 to 10 to 12 to however many hours I've got to put in that much easier to complete.
Yeah, yeah. I would love for you to talk about your process a little bit, Neri, because I know you went through the process that everyone's going through. You had job offers and you had interviews that didn't
Yep.
go well, and you had questions that you didn't know answers to. Talk about that because everyone else, as you know, is going through that right now. So tell us a little of the ups and downs of that process.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, when I first came on, I was real nervous. Got in a 7 Eagle, started learning a lot of things, reached out to a bunch of people, put in a bunch of applications. Some hit, some didn't. Finally got a couple of interviews. The first ones were very, very technical interviews. What is, this law and Coriolis effect and Bernoulli's principle and all these things that I hadn't heard for 20 years. I know what they are. I just didn't remember what they were called. So I was like, well, I'm not 100% sure. I'm not really sure. They start explaining it. And then I could, oh, yeah, you're talking about this, this, and this. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. A couple interviews went through. They went fairly well. Contact, and I think Jeff, I think he called me Christmas Eve or the day before. And it was really weird because I really, I guess, didn't realize I had pushed into an interview because we were just talking. It was dialogue. It was, hey, what are you interested in? What are you looking for? What is your background? And it was just talking. So I would say, especially if you're in a very specialized career field or career path like I was, I'm coming out of aircraft maintenance, so very detailed information, avionics based, electrical based. There are things that I know that I may not remember all the names to. Be savvy on that stuff because in the event that you do get a very technical interview, they are going to want to know the proper terms, the proper names, the way things are written, how they're actually introduced into a circuit or so on and so forth, or whatever falls into your background. But don't be surprised when you end up just talking to somebody, and be confident in yourself. That was, I guess, my hardest point, right? The Air Force has always told me how good I'm doing, exactly where I sit in the scale, what I should brag about, what I shouldn't brag about in these nice little papers, and then $1.90 at the, at the old BX, the comics, the clothing sales. Like, they wrote it down for me. Well, now I'm out and I have to talk about myself, and knowing what I'm good at, right? Knowing my skills, and even more importantly, knowing your weaknesses. That was one that kind of caught me off guard. In one of the interviews was, well, what do you say your biggest weakness is? And I was like, uh, I'm not 100% sure. And he goes, well, think about it for a minute. And eventually, I thought about it, and I said, well, I think I'm my biggest enemy when it comes to problem solving. I will, and I went into detail of, I will beat myself up when I don't get it the first time, and I'm searching and searching and searching and searching, trying to find this problem. I'll start beating myself up. So I have to find that flag early in my in my imagination, in my mind, and say, hey, slow down. You're gonna get it. Let's stop, think about it logically, and press on to the next step. And so that's kind of been, and you'll get those little things and write them down. Don't be afraid to keep a little note in your phone or notepad that says, "Hey, these were things that I got asked in all these interviews," and I'm in my folder at home. I've got a list of them, and some were completely off the wall things, and some were I've never really thought about it questions. Um, so yeah, especially when it came to the interview side, like those were the big things that I kind of stumbled and hurtled over. Then me and Jeff talked, and he was like, man, everything sounds great, like we're very interested, let's see what the next step forward is. And then it was kind of really out of my hands a whole lot. I had a couple of things to fill out on the website, and everything was worked behind the scenes, and they were like, "Hey, everything's great. Start with them on Monday." And Monday came around, and I was like, "Well, I'm kind of nervous. I'm kind of not sure of how this is going to go." And within 10 minutes, that was completely gone. Within the first day, I felt very much at home. Very much, hey, I know how to do this. This is all stuff that I've done in the past. And Mike kind of told me about it. This has been the smoothest transition that I could have felt. And I wonder how it would have been different being with a larger company or some of these other companies in the area that have shown interest. Because again, I don't think I would have gotten that personal invite, the ability to meet, Jeff, our VP of operations, or JP, the president, or any of the owners, and higher um, personnel on the management side in a large company. Like, I'm not going to meet the CEO of Boeing. I'm not going to meet the CEO of Lockheed, but the president and one of the owners is down the hall. Jeff is right down the hall. I was in the work lab and troubleshooting troubleshooting computer stuff. He's right down the hall. Hey, I'll just go pop in real quick, and it's very different than kind of what I expect the other side on the larger company field to be like, and I kind of like it on this side. Don't tell Jeff.
Yeah. You guys both mentioned how important it was for personalities to fit. Like that was something that you both mentioned was personalities have to fit. The morals of the company and the person really have to go together. What kind of questions or what kind of things did you think about to make sure that this company was a good fit in that realm?
So let me step in on this for a second. So
Yeah.
my experiences were a little bit different. So when I retired, I was very fortunate that one of my former bosses kind of, came after me and, kind of made a job for me, which was very nice, and had a great experience there working for Steve for 4 years. And I ended up actually running one of his subordinate companies. But after a while, I transitioned out of that, and, I wanted to do something a little bit different in my life. The owner of this company, strangely enough, lives across the street from my mother-in-law. So I've known JP for a very long time. And he asked me to come take a look at his company and kind of give him his assessment of what the company was like and so forth, and things to take a look at, and what could be improved. So I kind of did the reverse. I kind of interviewed this company and kind of went through and checked out a few things. But go back to your question, from the interviewee perspective, what should you be doing? This is where I'm going to tie it in. My intent is if I'm going to go work someplace and I'm going to work for somebody, I'm going to make sure that it's important to me, that I like it because I've retired or I've transitioned out. Time is on my own. I look at time differently now. I'm 55 years old. I know I look a lot younger than that, but I'm 55, but I also look at it in a venue that I'm only 15 years away from being 70. Okay. Kind of how you frame it up sometimes. And I'm like, if I'm going to go ahead and work for the next 5, 10 years or whatever, something like that, I'm damn well going to make sure that someplace I want to be, that I want to enjoy, that, there's a good culture at this place. Right. So when I did come over here and did this with JP, the thing that really grabbed my attention that I was really looking for and I was able to find was the climate over here again, the culture, and people that come here, this tends to be their last job. Okay. And you're going to get that by looking around, by asking questions, and in the interview process, you want to try and determine that. They always talk about preparing for your interview and doing rehearsals, and those are all very important things, and getting ready. But make sure you get your sensors up when you go into that interview. Look around you, look at the area you're going to work in. It may not be the flashy, great thing, but you're going to know people care about where they're at because their offices are going to be, relatively okay and sustained. Look at the people maybe that you see if you go through the building or something like that. Look at the expressions on their faces. Are they welcoming? Are they nice to you? Are they vested in trying to figure out who you are? Or are they just going to walk down the street or past you and say, okay, great, another guy coming in or whatever. Try and evaluate that. And through the interview process, again, you have an obligation to yourself to ask those questions. Find out a little bit more about the culture and how that company is, because you're going to live with your decision, you know, consequences, right? Um, and try and pick apart and find out what that culture is like. What's their turnover rate? Do people stay there for a very long time? That will be indicative of a place that you probably want to go and work for. And then at the end of the day, like we said, are you doing something that gives you that self-worth? Are you still part of the game?
Yeah, definitely. And I know with mine having a little bit of an in with Mike, made it real simple that, sometimes, especially in the military, you don't go straight to, the commander and go, well, tell me everything about the climate of this unit, da, 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 da. Like you go to your peers or people you may know. And I was like, hey, Mike, like, what am I expecting? What should I expect coming over here? He's like, dude, this is gonna be the easiest thing you've ever done. And I was like, well, what do you mean? He goes, dude, we come in, we joke. It's just like a maintenance unit. We just get to wear, flowery polos, and I wore stretchy pants yesterday. Like it's real smooth. It's not a big deal. You're going to see very little change. And the amount that plays in, finding my future career, like I said, if I want to come to work, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Um, I enjoy coming over here. I enjoy seeing the people here. I like having the ability to, if something came up that I could knock on Jeff's door and be like, hey, boss, you got a second? And he's like, yeah, man, sit down. What you got? I never thought that somebody in Jeff's position would sit me down and say, hey, like, this is what you're going to get with a big company. This is what you're going to see with a small company. Here are things that, to think about either way, because yes, we are very interested. We love what you're doing here, but we understand like you have options, and we just want you to be aware of I would have never thought it in a million years that somebody who is interested and is seeing what I have to produce would go, well, I mean, if you're looking over there, let me give you tips and tricks on and ideas and thought processes on those types of company. Never would have thought about it. So seeing that and having that come up in real life and as in real time was very easy for me to go, man, these guys, whether I work here at the end of my skill bridge or not, like, they really actually care about me in the small time that I'm going to be here, if that's the case. And that makes it that much easier when somebody cares about you. You love what you do. I'm seeing direct correlation to the warfighter, to the guys and gals that I served with in the aviation world. I heard a muttering of V-22 stuff. It's great to see that connection still. So I mean, we check all the big boxes for this, man. It makes work so much easier. So
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I mean, I can imagine someone like Jeff caring actually about Neri or Flow rather than just you're an employee now is huge. This might be a better question for Jeff, but what about these some people in here, they're like, I want my dream job. I know what my dream is, but I'm struggling getting there. I'm getting into those interviews and I'm just denying or I'm not in a financial like I need to support my family. I can't find that dream right now. What do you have to suggest for that?
Um, that's a good question. That's not a very easy answer either.
It's tough for sure.
Yeah. So, and also there's a reality that we live in. It's called life, right?
Mhm.
Um, and sometimes trying to knock on those doors, sometimes they don't open, sometimes people don't answer, and that's very unfortunate. And it's also timing sometimes. I mean, like I'd like to hire everybody in the world. I'd like to build a huge team over here, but unfortunately, timing with it and so forth, I can only get, a few people at a time maybe, and it kind of surges here and there as we're building. Um, and what I'll say is, you know, apply everywhere, kind of throw out a big, net of it and see what comes back. And unfortunately, sometimes you may throw out that big net, you might not get any hits back. And at the end of the day, you still got to feed your family, right? You still gotta have something coming in to pay the bills. Um, I'm going to say, and again, this is just an opinion. You may have to take something as an interim, uh,
Mhm.
but keep looking. And as you do that interim thing, don't be afraid. Obviously, you got to read the room, but don't be afraid to tell who you're working with. Hey, I'm doing this kind of temporarily until I get something else. Be honest with people. Don't burn bridges because it may come back later that hey, if you didn't give them 2 weeks notice, or if you talk bad about them and so forth, that could catch up with you. Uh, be the best person you can. Be who you are, right? And unfortunately, you may do some of those jobs you just don't want to do for a little bit to be able to get to the next step. And that's resolve, that's commitment. And that would come in handy when you go to an interview and they're like, hey, you did this, and this, but then you took this job over here for a while. Why'd you do that? Hey, I still got to do something. I still got to feed my family. I still got to, pay the bills. And I was willing to do whatever it took to continue on until I got the opportunity to come talk to you today. you know, from 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 an employer standpoint, then I'm going to look at that like, okay, that's somebody that's willing to roll their sleeves up and do something that they just really didn't want to do, but I can count on them to, if I give them something hard to do or something that's kind of out of the lane for their normal job set, that's somebody that's committed and they're going to do what it takes. I really need to pay attention to this interview now and figure out, how I can put that person on my team. Or can I share that with somebody else that I work, with different companies and partners and vendors and give them an opportunity? So I know that's probably not the easiest answer to your question, but at the end of the day, we live in a reality that you got to pay bills, you got to eat, and you got to have some funds. And don't be afraid to take a job that just might not be, I mean, it might be a complete curveball, but do something and don't do nothing. Because if you do nothing, then you're defeating yourself, right? And you're just going to atrophy, and your attitude might get a little sour or something like that. Um, just keep it up, and you just got to have faith, confidence, and prayers out there help too. Um, if you do good, good things will happen to you. I believe that.
Yeah, no, Jeff, you said that was a hard question, but you answered that beautifully. I could not think of a better answer. That was really, really great. Well, I just have one last question for you guys. I really, really appreciate your guys' time. I just would like to know if you guys each have a little bit of last advice for someone who's in Neri's situation or anybody in this room. They're transitioning, they're going through a tough time. You guys have both been through it. What's a good little piece of advice to leave them off with?
Don't sell yourself short. On my side, definitely you're worth it. I actually saw a Instagram reel, Facebook reel the other day, and it was this lady. She was like, I'm gonna come back when I'm somebody someday. And the guy stops her and goes, "Stop! You are somebody right now. So don't worry about the person that you may want to be in 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, you're who you are now. You have served your country, you are in a position where you have skill sets, you have knowledge, you have the ability to lead, whether you think it's a big thing of leadership or a little bit, you're there. You are somebody now. So know your strengths, know your weaknesses, capitalize on your strengths, expose your own weaknesses, and make those, develop countermeasures against those and become the better person. So in 15, 20 years, you can be that much better of a person than you are currently.
What I'm going to add to that, and very nice answer. Um, I always like to try and keep things somewhat simple. And you've all been in the military for a while, right? So 90% of, I'm an Army guy, so 90% of the Army is being at the right place at the right time in the right uniform. You know, if you're doing those kind of things, right, and you're showing up early, you're showing up prepared, that goes a long way. I know you may be struggling trying to get into it, or like, man, what am I going to do? Whatever. Don't sweat, don't sweat the big stuff sometimes, Um, do your diligence, be prepared, look at all your options out there, and kind of take it a bite at a time, kind of plan it out a little bit, give yourself some time, and you're better than you think you are. Okay. We all have a negative self-image of ourselves. Um, when you go to an interview or you meet somebody, always take an opportunity to get to know them, understand them, and you never know where that leads. Hey, I know somebody that's doing that. Do you want to talk to them or whatever? Get to know people around you in the community, people that you meet at the grocery store or something like that. Always be friendly, be nice, courteous. People are going to remember you somehow, some way, right? And you never know who you're going to bump into. Treat people how you want to be treated. A lot of that comes around to good things, I believe. And when you go into an interview, hey, if it goes bad, you know, don't 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 dwell on it too much. Learn from your mistakes. That's the best teacher I've ever had. My wife tells me I make a mistake every day, so uh, it I do take that and I reflect and I try and do better. But I guess going back to how I answered that one question before as well. Um, don't give up. Do your best. Keep trying. Keep trying to advance. And like Neri said, don't give up. I
Yeah,
think we had a
great
question
advice
come
from
up.
the Yeah, great advice from the both of you. Like Neri said earlier, you're your biggest hater. We are all better than all of us think of ourselves. So thank you guys so much. Jeff, it was great meeting you. Thank you for taking the time out of your day. And Neri, thank you for coming back. We're all super glad that you're succeeding and you're happy and you're doing great. That is what everyone is here for. So I appreciate the both of you.
Our pleasure. I really appreciate the opportunity to do this. Thank
Yeah.
you, Neri, for bringing this up and asking me to do this.
Absolutely.
And I've enjoyed it. So, anytime that you want me to participate in this and I'm available, I absolutely will. I love this stuff.
Yeah,
And Kaylee,
100%.
after this, I'll get my LinkedIn profile to you as
Mm,
well, or if you can
yes.
search it up and feel free to share it. If anybody in the group has questions, concerns, hey, I ran into this, I ran into that. I'm not an expert by any means. In fact, I don't even have a job right now. Uh,
Well, we can fix that.
that's what we're looking for. But I'm here to talk. I'm always here to give my experiences, and yeah, feel free to connect with me, shoot me a message, and I can help any way that I can.
Yeah, Neri has some great advice. So, from personal experience, definitely reach out to him if you're needing some advice from someone in your own shoes. But thank you guys. You are good to go. Have a wonderful rest of your day.